Settler violence in the West Bank continues to rise, and that does threaten some regional stability. How are you addressing that?
Well, first of all, I think it's much bloated. You know, when they're talking about it, they're talking about a handful of kids. We actually located it. It's about 70 kids. They're not from the West Bank. They're actually come from teenagers who come from broken homes, and they do things like chopping the olive trees, and sometimes they try to burn a home. I can't accept that. That's vigilantism. I'm taking that out.
Teenagers that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is referring to, effectively terrorists, are usually accompanied by their terrorist parents. So the idea that they're just, wild, unruly teenagers from broken homes is laughable to say the least. But that whole statement you heard from Netanyahu, bald-faced lie. And he claimed during this interview with Fox's Bret Baier that, just a few dozen rowdy teens are responsible for all the terror, all the damage, all the land theft, all the home theft that's been carried out by Israelis in the West Bank. All that settler violence that you've seen on camera, it's all part of your imagination, right? I mean, if Netanyahu's mouth is open, he is lying. Okay, he is incapable of telling you anything that is honest or true. So he pointed the finger at Palestinians, by the way, insisting that the Israelis, well, they're the true victims.
But they claim they put a false symmetry between these teenagers and 1,000, actually over 1,000 terrorist attacks against the settlers, families, mothers who are driving on the roads there with their children. Boom, they're attacked, they're slain. So there's no symmetry. I'm putting a special effort to stop this vigilantism. I can't accept it. Even if it's not parallel, even if it's not symmetrical, I want peaceful coexistence between the Israelis and the Palestinians who live in Judea, Samaria, which is part of our ancestral homeland.
He's right about one thing, and the one thing he's right about is that the violence is not symmetrical. It's asymmetrical violence. It's just that he's lying about where the power lies here. Because if you can remember, shortly after October 7th happened, we saw images of these violent settlers being given assault rifles. You think the Palestinians who are currently having their homes stolen from them, from said settlers, have assault rifles to defend themselves with? No, they don't, number one. And also, he's lying about the IDF's involvement. So according to the UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, since October 7th, 2023, and up until November 13th of this year, Israeli security forces and settlers have killed at least 1,017 Palestinians in the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem. The West Bank, which is not governed by Hamas, had nothing to do with October 7th whatsoever, has been met with unfathomable violence to the point where over 1,000 Palestinians have been slaughtered by settler violence in the West Bank. And you have this pathetic, genocidal clown lying to the American people while sucking up our resources to commit these atrocities, lying to the American people and making it seem as though the real victims are the aggressors and the terrorists who are raining terror on the Palestinians in the West Bank. By the way, nice visit to the United States to engage in propaganda that's honestly against the American people here. Okay, lying to the American people. And congratulations, Bret Baier, for facilitating that type of propaganda on your program. Among the victims, by the way, the 1,017 Palestinians in the West Bank who have been killed, among those victims were 221 children. During the same period, 59 Israelis were killed in Palestinian attacks or alleged attacks or armed clashes. So you want to talk about the symmetry here or the lack of symmetry here? Obviously, and in every case that we have reported on, right? Not just the violence that breaks out, that has broken out recently, but violence that has broken out in the West Bank in previous years, previous conflicts. Every single time, Palestinians disproportionately get killed, disproportionately. And this clown, again, has the audacity to lie to us and make it seem as though, no, roles are reversed here, please. The violence against Palestinians in the West Bank is not just about killings, by the way, the vast majority of which are actually carried out by Israeli forces, not settlers. So 3,139 attacks by Israeli settlers resulting in casualties and or property damage. So I guess we're just supposed to pretend like that doesn't exist. In addition, since January of 2023, over 700 Palestinian families comprising roughly of 3,900 people have been displaced due to settler attacks and access restrictions. They just steal their homes and they steal Palestinian land. That's what they do. In fact, I remember when Obama first got elected in 2008, part of the reason why he had a sour relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu, despite the fact that Obama's administration is the one that gifted the Israelis the Iron Dome, is because Obama had the audacity to politely ask Netanyahu to stop building illegal settlements in the West Bank. That's all it took. An American president just kindly asking, hey, maybe follow international law and don't build illegal settlements and steal Palestinian land. But remember, our president is supposed to be Israel's bitch. And so even politely asking Israel to follow international laws is just, it's unheard of. I can't believe Obama had the audacity to do that. So this year, as you can imagine, the attacks on Palestinians and their property has gotten a lot worse. And 33 Palestinian communities and areas have been fully emptied of their residents in the past 3 years. So I want to just give you some visuals so you can understand how bad things have gotten.
Gangs of violent Israeli settlers running riot in the West Bank, spreading terror in Palestinian communities. Brutal assaults caught on camera.
Oh, come on, don't hit her!
Since the ceasefire in Gaza, there's been a surge in violence here, committed by extremist groups of settlers. October was the most violent month of attacks since UN records began in 2006. Israeli human rights groups, activists, and the opposition are accusing the government of stoking the attacks, and the Israeli army has been repeatedly accused of standing by and letting it happen. Hundreds of settlers have taken part in the violent attacks, but only a handful have been arrested and even fewer convicted.
I mean, the evidence is endless. The footage is endless. But Netanyahu still lies. He even claimed in his interview with Bret Baier that the Israeli government is doing everything it can to stop vigilante attacks on Palestinians. His own government, by the way, has greenlit dozens of new illegal settlements in the West Bank, which are considered illegal under international law. His own national security minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, also handed out weapons to Israeli settlers on October 7th. So that's what I was referring to earlier. And when I say weapons, I'm talking about assault rifles. And when an ABC reporter tried to get answers about whether violent settlers had been apprehended, both the IDF and the Israeli police shirked responsibility. Take a look.
Can you tell me how many settlers have been charged and imprisoned or punished as a result of violence over the last month?
Well, Ian, I think that's a question to be asked to Israeli police, and I say it's not so much something that the IDF is involved in that side of the process, and I don't have the current answer for you.
We put that exact same question to the Israeli police, but they pushed responsibility back to the army, telling us the IDF were responsible for the real-time prevention and handling of violent incidents throughout the region, including situations involving Palestinian and Israeli individuals.
Israeli police and the IDF stand by and allow it to happen if they're not also engaging in it or providing cover for it. That's the reality of the situation. And this is the government that we are funding. This is the government that we are proudly stating is our special ally as we become more isolated and alienated from the international community. It is beyond embarrassing. And for whatever it's worth, for anyone in the international community who might be watching this right now, we don't actually live in a true democracy here in the United States. It doesn't matter how many Americans or what percentage of Americans are against US support toward Israel. Our government, despite any party that's in charge, okay, it doesn't matter if it's Democrats or Republicans, is going to carry out the wishes of the Israeli government no matter what, because they control us. They control our government. Israel controls our government. We have a system of legalized bribery. So foreign interests are able to bribe our politicians. The Israelis are far more organized and have multiple organizations, several organizations operating out of the United States, specifically to lobby on behalf of Israel, to bribe our politicians on behalf of Israel. Yes, AIPAC happens to be the most notable lobbying group that does this. And there's also blackmail. I have no doubt that there are politicians and people in positions of power who are being blackmailed. And that's how we find ourselves in a situation where, I mean, this story more than anything, I think really pulls the wool over everyone's eyes when it comes to the reality of how undemocratic our political system has become. Doesn't matter, the majority of Americans don't want anything to do with Israel, don't want to send Israel more money for their atrocities. We're going to just keep doing it because our government doesn't represent us. That's the cold, hard truth. And data confirms that settlers act with near impunity. So a study that was conducted last year in 2024 by an Israeli organization looked at police investigations into the violence that was committed by Israelis against Palestinians, specifically in the West Bank. And here's what they found. From 2005 to September 2023, some 94% of investigations it was able to review were closed without an indictment, and just 3% ended in a conviction. And Donald Trump, our president, during a joint press conference this week with Netanyahu, was asked about the violence in the West Bank and whether he has any problem with it. Let's take a look.
Did you have a message for the Prime Minister about the West Bank? And are you at all concerned that settler violence, Israeli settler violence, could be undermining the peace plan?
Well, we have had a discussion, big discussion for a long time on the West Bank. And I wouldn't say we agree on the West Bank 100%, but we will come to a conclusion on the West Bank.
If I could ask, what is the disagreement?
Well, I don't want to do that. It'll be announced at an appropriate time. But he will do the right thing. I know that. I know him very well. He will do the right thing.
He will do the right thing. I mean, how pathetic was that? Like, for all the people who thought that Donald Trump was this strong president. I mean, I always thought that Trump has a huge ego and he wouldn't want to be humiliated or dog walked, especially in public like this. I couldn't be more wrong. He's happy to be dog walked. That was so humiliating. But just in time, just in the nick of time, you've got our old friend Barak Ravid over at Axios publishing this headline right after Trump made that statement. Trump top aides asked Netanyahu to change policy in occupied West Bank. Oh, did he? Did he ask? How did that work out? But in Netanyahu's interview with Bret Baier, he went so far as to deny that he and Trump had any significant disagreements about how to handle the West Bank. Let's take a look.
Because I think we both want to see a future in which that territory is not used for terrorist attacks. We've done a lot of things in that regard. We also want to build a lot of infrastructure there, both for us and for our Palestinian neighbors. And I think there's a lot of room to talk about it. But I think ultimately, Israel has to have the military control over this area because it's so tiny.
You have to have military control because it's so tiny. Oh, that tiny area that over 2 million Palestinians were crammed into. And now much of that land, over 50% of that land, is being occupied by Israeli forces who have made it abundantly clear that they have no intention of leaving. And the rest of Gaza is right there for the taking, according to Benjamin Netanyahu. I mean, it is, again, the biggest stain on modern American history that we are aligned with such a disgusting genocidal regime. It's just the truth. And unfortunately, the culture in Israel has become more and more right-wing. You see the interviews where they just willy-nilly dehumanize the Palestinian people. Doesn't matter. They're not human to them. And it's just beyond unsettling. And for people who bring up like a random conflict that's happening globally that the US actually isn't involved in, we're not aiding and abetting. They're like, why don't you care about this? Number one, I do care. It's not like I don't care at all. But the thing is, we don't have blood on our hands when it comes to some of those other conflicts that keep getting like thrown in our faces as like, squirrel, focus on this, don't focus on Israel. No, we are bankrolling what Israel is doing. We, as Americans, because of our disgusting government, have blood on our hands. That's why we talk about this. And it is to the detriment of our own country that we support those atrocities. It is both immoral and inhumane and just wrong. It goes against everything this country is supposed to stand for by defending and aiding and abetting Israel. And then on top of that, there's the added layer of our people are suffering, yet we're funneling tens of billions of dollars to the country that's committing genocide in Gaza and essentially expansion into other countries like Syria and Lebanon. It's just so wrong. And yeah, I'm obsessed with the topic. I have no problem with anyone accusing me of being obsessed with the topic. I will continue talking about it. I will not be deterred.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.